after watching Bradford and some of the other news and notes on this Philadelphia Eagles season, which has one more preseason tune-up before the real deal. Monday night in Atlanta, September 14th, in a game you'll hear right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Barrett, a lot of people buzzing about Sam Bradford and the way he played. I know some people really thought he was an upgrade and that he was going to, certainly be a difference maker over Nick Foles. Watching him Saturday night, what more, if anything, does he need to do or prove to the fans to show that he's the real deal?
Well, I'll tell you before, I've always been a big fan of Sam Bradford, and I receive a lot of slack from everybody the past 4 months about Sam Bradford and his potential to run this offense and his desire to be good and play the game. And, it's finally great that everybody also knows that I was right the whole time, man. So I must toot my horn, man, and let everybody know, yes, I have been a Sam Bradford fan the whole time.
You and me both. I mean, I get a lot of flack from people because I was not the biggest Foles guy in the world. I did not like Nick. I just thought he was holding this offense back. Do you think Sam Bradford will now – do the Eagles – I said before, the Eagles' quarterback position, whether it be Sanchez or Foles, was holding the offense back. Is that going to be a problem now?
No, absolutely not. Just from his decision-making process, how he processed the defense, he knows where the blitz is coming. He might have to look down the barrel of a blitzing safety like he did yesterday when he threw a touchdown to Trey Burton yesterday. He can take a hit, plus he knows when to get the ball away. And that's the difference between Foles and even Sanchez. I think that they hold the ball a little too long because they don't know where the ball is supposed to go, and they're a little bit indecisive in their thought process.
Yeah, when you watch a guy like Sam Bradford play, it kind of shows you what that next-level quarterback is. When I say with like an Andy Dalton, Andy's a nice player. He can get you to a certain point. But you need that guy to get you over the hump. I think Foles was a nice player. He could get you to a certain point. But now you got a guy that if you get held back by the quarterback, you're going to be disappointed.
Absolutely. And Sam Bradford is a guy really that could be a real franchise quarterback for this team. And I tried and I begged and pleaded for everybody to jump on my cause to sign this guy as soon as they can. I mean, he's really a guy that can really turn this franchise around just because he understands how to play the game the way it's supposed to be played. He's one of the upper echelon quarterbacks when given an opportunity to be in a system that takes advantage of what he brings to the table. The little idiosyncrasies that he has as far as processing the defense, you don't find with a lot of quarterbacks, and this guy has it. There's no reason. The only reason why he didn't prosper in St. Louis is the talent around him. Now he has no excuse, and I tell you what, he's going to show everyone that he is the first-round draft pick, the first pick overall that they project him to be.
That was going to be my follow-up, Barrett. If for the detractors that say, then why hasn't he shown this where he was before or with St. Louis? He was there for 4 or 5 years, and he couldn't get them to the playoffs. Is that because he just wasn't good enough? His talent around him wasn't good enough? What is your answer to the detractors?
It's a combination of a lot of things. It's not just Sam Bradford not having the capability to raise a team to the next level. All top-tier quarterbacks are able to take their team from one level and raise everybody else's to the top level. But there's only so much raise you can do with the talent that they have in St. Louis, plus the different offenses that he ran. When Pat Sherman was there with him his rookie year in St. Louis, he ran a great offense. He did very well. Well, since then, he's had 3 offensive coordinators since then. He's had a shabby offensive line that he has to deal with. And plus, when you don't have a receiving core to throw to, man, it makes a lot of difference on how you play the game. Okay, he did have a running game, but still not the capacity that he has here in Philadelphia. He really, really has a nice running game now. He's no longer the primary option. He is the second option on his offense. This is the run-first option offense. Hopefully they run the ball 55 to 58% of the time and have Bradford go ahead and pass the ball maybe 42% of the time. That's the perfect mix, and that'll give him the perfect opportunity to rip apart defenses, because if you don't know if they're going to run the ball or pass the ball, it's definitely going to help him in the long run.
Give me your thoughts then on the run game with Matthews and obviously Murray and how they sprinkle Sproles into this mix. How do you foresee this running game looking now? How do they split it up? And what is different about this running attack than the one we saw with LaShawn McCoy?
This is a great luxury for Coach Kelly to have. When you have that many guys that can control the game with their talent, it's definitely a benefit with Coach Kelly. Murray is that slashing runner that's going to take it north and south. Matthews is the same thing. If you line them both up, they take the track blocking with the zone. They tip the track, and as soon as they see the slightest opening, they take that one step and cut and take it downhill. Whether it's 2 yards, 6 yards, 3 yards, and another 2 yards, that's a first down no matter how you calculate it. And that's what you need in this offense to keep it on time. This is a time-based type of offense that keeps defenses off on their heels the whole time. Now, it's changed specifically in the aspect that it's just track blocking now. It's no longer the pull out and get, guys out base when Kelsey was a guy that could block in the third level. We don't need all that now. Now blocking, putting the hat on the hat, double teaming front side or back side, securing off the line of scrimmage, and then have these running backs use their talent and take. Eventually, the run integrity is going to be lost by the defensive line. They're eventually going to get out of gap, and once they're out of that gap, that's when these guys take one step and take the ball downhill. And that's all you can ask. You have a stable running game with this offense. Can only make Bradford a better quarterback, and it really helps them as a running back because then the defense will always be on their heels.
Barret Brooks is with us from Breakfast on Broad on the Comcast Network, 6 to 8 Monday through Fridays, and of course won a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers, former Eagle offensive lineman. How is this 5-man offensive line kind of revamped a little bit on the inside? How are they performing in this run game?
Well, they're very stable. Of course, we knew that Alan Barbary and Andrew Garner were not guys that are going to blow you out of the water. They're very technique sound, very conscious of where they're supposed to be at, how they're supposed to get there, and essentially their technique is what makes them a good player. They're not the dominating offensive lineman like you have on the left tackle with Jason Peters or the athletic guy that's a future great right tackle and Lane Johnson, but they're guys who are just going to get the job done. Those two guards know where they have to be. They understand the idiosyncrasies of how to play the game, how to pass block, and I think that's what put Garner ahead of the rest of them. His pass blocking skills were a lot better than Tobin, than Vandervelde, all those guys, and that's why he's starting right now. He's more disciplined in his pass sets, so that's why he's got the nod. As far as run blocking, all those guys, Moffitt, they ran block the same. I mean, they really were pretty good run blockers, but they just couldn't pass block the same to Andrew Garner, and that's what set him apart from being a second-team guy to being a starter for this offense.
Barret, obviously that third preseason game, that's the one that is considered the dress rehearsal. That's the one that everybody plays, the most. And, you watch that game. Last year, Green Bay blew the doors off of Philadelphia. I'm not saying to compare this game to that game, but has the gap been closed between Philadelphia and Green Bay, a team that I know on their side offensively, no Rodgers, but their defense is still their first-team defense for the most part. Do you look at these two teams and say the gap has closed between Philly and Green Bay?
I think the gap was closed once you acquired Sam Bradford, Ryan Matthews, and Murray. That gap was closed substantially because now they have a patent run game now that's going to stay on time. I think that, Sam Bradford has gotten a new lease on life, a new opportunity to prove himself as one of the top-tier quarterbacks, and that's the only reason that I would say this offense has really put this team to a point now. If they are a major contender in the NFC right now. Of course, they got an all-star in Rodgers, and Rodgers, doesn't matter who he's throwing to out there. He's going to get the ball out there. He's the best quarterback actually right now playing. Him and Luck are probably on the same level as far as what they bring to the table as a talent and being a quarterback. But I tell you what, Sam Bradford brings this team a lot closer, and with the additions on the defense, that gap is no longer a torrential gap like it was last year. Now they really, really have the NFC looking at them like, look, these guys are contenders in this NFC.
You win 10 games with Nick Foles and Mark Sanchez. I think that's saying something. You add a quarterback of that level, a 10-win team becomes maybe, 11, 12, 13-win team. Look, I'm not trying to – but obviously they upgraded at the most important position on the field. I think that's why people have a right to be excited. But there are still some things to take a look at. Wide receiver – Aguilar did not play, he had his worst game of the 3 preseason games. Matthews, they're still kind of playing in the slot. We didn't get to see Huff. Cooper's really not a part of the offense. Does the wide receiver, we're talking about Bradford having more weapons, do they have enough weapons at wide receiver?
You know what? That might be the weak link of this team. And, when you have a weak link that, have a guy like Matthews out there who's the number one, and Aguilar could potentially be a really good guy to play. But I like what Cooper did in camp this year, and Huff, just another year to mature in this offense. They'll be all right at that position. They're not going to blow any doors off. They're not going to go out and take the top off of defenses like Deshaun Jackson did. But what they do understand and what they play well at doing is spacing. These guys understand where they're supposed to be at and how they're supposed to get there. And that's all you can ask from a receiver in this offense. Because it's so quick-paced and the tempo is so fast, Bradford needs to get the ball out on time, and those receivers have to know where they're supposed to be at and where they're supposed to be at. And that spacing is really helping them guys flourish in this system. I do believe that these guys will only get better with time. I think the Cooper's going to step up a little more than people give him credit for. Huff, he has a lot of maturity doing his offense. I think him and Aguilar are probably the 2 weak links in it. But when you got a guy like Miles Austin who understands how to play the game, and nobody works harder than Matthews in understanding where he's supposed to be at, these guys can be pretty good.
Hey, give me your thoughts on Alonzo. I know Chip Kelly said today he's looked sharp in practice, but games and practices are different. He will not appear in any of the 4 preseason games most likely. Is that a worry? Is that a concern?
Well, it's a concern in the aspect that this guy hasn't played for the past 18 months. He didn't play last year. He played he played his rookie year, and that's it. I mean, that's a lot of football. That's 6 months that he was able to play during the last 3 years. Well, 2.5 years. 6 months he's only played. So, of course, he's going to be a little rusty. Of course, he's not going to be making the same reads as fast as he did when he was playing, when he was fresh out of college. But his only saving grace is the way his front 3 are playing. When you got Cedric Thornton, Fletcher Cox, and Benny Logan playing to where they're playing, they're reestablishing an offensive line 2 yards behind the previous offensive line of scrimmage. These guys are pressing guys back, keeping their linebackers free. If you look at it, D'Amico Ryans and Michael Kendricks didn't necessarily have great games, but the defensive line had a great games, so they were able to run behind blocks, maybe take a wrong step here and there, and still be able to go make a play because the dynamic play of the 3 guys up front allowed them that opportunity to retrace or get back on target and make plays in that defense.
Barret Brooks with us from Breakfast on Broad on the Comcast Network, Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, of course, Barrett's breakdown every Monday here on the Sports Bash 97.3. Hey, Brandon Graham, he signed the deal. They let Cole go. They brought Graham back. What is your take on where Graham is? Because, he's new to this position in terms of a full-time player. He got 46% of the snaps last year, and now he's going to be asked to do more. Are you liking what you're seeing? Are they going to get more from that position with Graham than they got from Cole?
I think just because he's a younger player, he has a higher motor than Cole. He'll eventually get to a level where Cole was, but I think he'll surpass what he did in this system. He'll now be asked to do a lot more than they asked him, than they asked his predecessor to do. He's going to drop more. He understands where he's supposed to be at now, where he fits in this defense. And the big thing that I saw from this last game, he set the edge in the run, and on the backside, he ran down a lot of plays from the backside. That's what you want from an outside linebacker in this defense. And then I saw him run a lot of blitz in which he was involved with. I call it the MEB blitz. That's when you take the Mike scrapes on the outside, you take the outside linebacker and Graham and rush him on the outside, and then you slant a guy, either Cedric Thornton or Fletcher Cox inside. that really puts your offensive line in a position where who do you block? Do you take the Mike linebacker, who the offensive line is responsible for, the defensive end slant again? Does the tackle follow him? And who's now going to pick up Brandon Graham? Is it going to be a back? Is it going to be a tight end? That's the perfect mix for an offensive line to be very, very confused at, because where is he supposed to go? And then the running back is looking at the same thing thinking, wow, I got to block this bigger guy that I can't necessarily do on my own. That's what Coach Davis now has the luxury of doing. And I like the MEB blitz that they ran. It hit home a little bit. It really ruffled Brett Hundley. And I see a lot of big things coming from this defense that Coach Davis is now articulating.
Yeah, and he's got more toys, it looks like. But that secondary, that nickel corner, is that a concern? I mean, how they obviously still need to figure out what they are doing in that secondary a little bit. I think it's going to be Carrol and Maxwell and Rowe in some form, but is that secondary good enough to get them to that next level? It was a problem last year, we know. We think they've upgraded, but is it good enough?
You know what? I looked at it yesterday, and they really did a smart thing. They moved Nolan Carrol in at the slot cornerback and move Rowe on the outside. Take a lot of the responsibility of that nickel corner from him and put him out there on the outside where they're either one-on-one in the single high coverage that Coach Davis runs, or they have him in zone in that cover three. And when you run cover three, only time you lock up man is when the guy runs. If your receiver runs vertical, if your receiver doesn't run vertical, you funnel him to the inside to the meat of the defense. That's all you can ask a young guy like Rowe to do. Funnel your guy or take a man-to-man on the vertical route. You take away a lot of responsibility from him. Just let him play instinctually. You'll put him in a better position to be successful. I thought Rowe didn't play well yesterday, but he didn't play bad. He played average, and him being in this system, he can only get better. I saw that this is probably the worst game that he's had this preseason, but it wasn't bad enough to say, hey, we need to do something about it. It was just the bumps and bruises and the learning of being a rookie, and I think he'll progressively get better as the season goes on.
Barret Brooks is with us on a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, you hear him every morning from 6 to 8 on Breakfast on Broad on the Comcast Network. I think, one thing moving forward here that still needs to be answered from this team is, in the past, you had a team that scored a lot of points. You had a team that gave up a lot of X plays. I think this team is still going to score a lot of points. Are they going to give up those X plays? And if not, what is the identity of this team? That's really, to me, I guess the big question for me, Barret, is what's the identity of who are the Philadelphia Eagles?
I see them as a fast break team. I mean, it's all predicated on how this offense plays. I think they're going to score a lot of points. They average more points than any other team in this in the league. 38 points a game in the preseason. They're only going to get better. Can you really imagine they're going to score more than 40 points a game this season? And that's what they're on pace for doing. They haven't really got everything together as far as starters and where everybody belongs. But once they get it together, they could, optimally score 40 points a game. And then with the defense they have now, they have a solid defense. And we're not going to say an all-star, but they have a solid defense, a defense that I don't think is going to bend too much. I think these guys are talented enough to make some plays on the front seven, just good enough to keep those guys up front blitzing, and then the guys on the tail end are talented enough to they're turning around, they're playing the ball. Walter Thurman is turning out to be a diamond in the rough at the safety position, even though the safety position in this defense is not really a safety. He's actually a guy that plays up man-to-man in the slot and around the ball. So it really is working well for this Eagles team. The biggest thing is I think the special teams will be just as good as they were last year. They're going to be a special group. So I think they have gotten a lot better, and Coach Kelly has really turned my head as far as his decision-making on picking his players and his GM role.
Well, let me ask you this. You talk about turning your head on making the decisions on the players and the GM role, but is it also coming out to the field that I think he said something, in reference to the player personnel on the field kind of dictate some of his play calling, and that almost could be, look, we're not being held back, so we can open up the playbook a little bit more, and now you're seeing us kind of let it loose.
Yeah, the playbook that you saw Nick Foles and Sanchez and Michael Vick, it was only a little bit of what he has to offer. I think that it almost doubles, maybe even triples with the talent level that Sam Bradford has, and he's a lot better athlete than people give him credit for. Of course, they're not going to run him right now until that knee is all the way healed and ready for him to go out and make some dynamic plays in the run game as far as the read option. But I do believe he's a better offense than people give him credit for, and that book that Chip Kelly has as far as his offense has probably doubled or tripled than what he had with Nick Foles. Nick Foles held onto the ball too long. I think Sanchez did the same thing. Sam Bradford gets that ball out of his hands, keep things on time, and, regardless of what they said, against Baltimore when he overthrew a guy, it doesn't matter. He was throwing to the guy.
That's to be expected.
So I wasn't worried about it.
And that's to be expected. His first throw in about 18 months. That doesn't mean. What I want to see is quick, decisive decisions. Does he know what he's doing? Does he look like he's got it on his mind that I'm still hurt? To me, he seems like he's healthy. He took his hits, and now I think he's mentally past that part. I'm excited to see him on Monday night against the Atlanta Falcons because you won't see him on Thursday, but you'll see Tebow and Barkley. Barrett, who wins that battle?
I think if you really want to, take a look at what's really going on, it has to be Barkley. They tried their best to get and give Tim Tebow every opportunity to win the position, gave him a chance to go out there and see what he brought to the table. He just didn't do it. He just didn't have the capability of being the third-team quarterback. Even in gadget plays, and Chip said he didn't have any gadget plays. Yeah, whatever. When he was playing on the 2-point conversion, It was nothing but wildcat. That's all that was. He's not a passer. He's not a guy that you would rely on to make those deep passes. In a regular offense. He is a great football player, just not a great quarterback.
All right, that is Barrett Brooks here on the Sports Bass Breakfast on Broad. Tomorrow morning at 6. I know you're going to bed soon, so I'll let you go, brother.
Absolutely appreciate it, man. Hey, let's get it going this year, man.
Oh, of course, next Monday, back in the saddle, we'll recap the game and then get ready for the regular season. Barrett Brooks, Super Bowl champion, former Eagle. Take care, bud.
Take care now.
All right, he's Barrett Brooks every Monday with Barrett's Breakdown here on 97.3 ESPN.